Senator Jasmine Crockett was already halfway to the Capitol when her phone erupted. It was 7:15 a.m. The sun was just beginning to cut through the Washington, D.C. humidity. She ignored the buzzing at first, thinking it was just the usual morning news alerts. But then her chief of staff, David, called, then a daughter, then 3 different reporters. She pulled her vintage Mustang over to the side of the road and picked up the phone. The screen was flooded with notifications. A clip from a small, obscure right-wing news site had gone viral. The headline was bizarre, almost nonsensical. Ivanka Trump's secret wife identity revealed, shocking claims. Crockett stared at the screen for a solid 10 seconds, her brow furrowed. She scrolled through the comments. People were losing their minds. The video, which was just a blurry photo of Ivanka with a friend and a breathless voiceover, claimed that a well-placed source had confirmed that Ivanka was secretly married to a woman, and that the woman was a mid-level staffer in the Biden administration. It was absurd. It was a complete fabrication, but the internet didn't care. It was a perfect storm. Ivanka Trump, a secret lesbian marriage, and a connection to the Biden White House. The right-wing comment sections were gleefully calling it the ultimate family hypocrisy, while others were just baffled. Then she saw the post from Donald Trump. It was on his social media platform, Truth Social. He had shared the video. His caption read, "The fake news media will never report this. Ivanka is a wonderful daughter, but if this is true, it's a very sad situation. The radical left will stop at nothing to destroy my family. Sad." He hadn't denied it. He hadn't called it a lie. He had poured gasoline on the fire. Crockett felt a hot flash of anger, not at the ridiculous rumor, but at the mechanism of it. This is how it works, she thought. You create a noise so loud, so bizarre, that it drowns out everything else. While the country is talking about a fictional secret wife, they're not talking about the infrastructure bill, or the child care crisis, or the latest revelations from the January 6th committee. She pulled back onto the road, her mind racing. By the time she reached her office, the building was buzzing with it. Junior staffers were huddled around phones, laughing in disbelief. More seasoned aides looked worried. "What's the play?" David asked, following her into her office. He was a pragmatic man in his 40s with a permanent look of slight exhaustion. "Do we issue a statement dismissing it? Do we ignore it?" "We ignore it, it festers," Crockett said, tossing her bag onto a leather chair. "We respond, we legitimize it." The TV in her office was tuned to MSNBC. The chyron at the bottom read, "Trump reacts to viral Ivanka wife claim." Crockett pointed at the screen. "See, they're already covering his reaction to the story, not the story's falsity, his reaction. He's winning." Her phone rang again. It was the office of the Senate Majority Leader. They wanted to know her thoughts. They were considering a unified, stern response about disinformation. Crockett listened, then said, "A stern response is what they expect. It's what they want. It makes us look like scolding librarians while they're setting off firecrackers in the library." She hung up and started pacing. Her mind went back to her years as a public defender in Dallas. She'd seen this tactic 100 times in the courtroom. A desperate lawyer, with no evidence, would throw out a wild, outlandish accusation. "My client couldn't have robbed that store because the real culprit is a secret government agent from Mars." The goal wasn't to be believed. The goal was to introduce chaos, to force the prosecution to waste time and energy debunking the Martian, making the whole case look ridiculous by association. This was the same thing. The Martian was Ivanka's secret wife. "I'm going to the floor," she announced suddenly. David's eyes widened. "For what? We don't have anything scheduled. There's no vote for hours." "I'm going to give a speech." "About what? The farm bill?" "No, David, about the Martian." An hour later, the Senate chamber was sparsely populated, as it usually was for unscheduled remarks. A few bored senators scrolled through their phones. The C-SPAN cameras were on, but they were always on. Crockett approached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked directly into the lens. She didn't start with Mr. President. She started with a slow, disbelieving shake of her head. A small, wry smile played on her lips. "You know," she began, her Texas drawl softening the edges of her words, "when I woke up this morning, I thought my biggest challenge was going to be figuring out how to explain the new semiconductor bill to my grandmother. I was wrong. The internet, and apparently a former president of the United States, have presented us with a much more pressing matter of national security." She paused, letting the silence hang for a beat. "It seems we have a new First Lady, or a co-First Lady, a secret, same-sex, absolutely fabricated out of thin air First Lady." In the gallery, a few staffers stifled laughs. On the floor, one senator, an older man from the Midwest, looked up from his newspaper, completely confused. Crockett continued, her voice dropping the humor, becoming sharper. "Let me be perfectly clear so that there is no ambiguity, no both sides nonsense, no just asking questions cowardice. The story that Ivanka Trump has a secret wife is a lie. It is a complete and total fabrication. It is not based on a shred of evidence. It is the political equivalent of a tall tale told around a campfire by people who have had too much to drink." She leaned forward slightly. "But here's the thing. We're not going to spend the next 48 hours fact-checking it. We're not going to form a Senate subcommittee to investigate the marital status of the Trump family, because that is exactly what they want." She gestured broadly, as if to encompass the entire country. "They have mastered a terrible art form. They create a story so loud, so stupid, so viral that it becomes the only thing anyone can talk about. And while we're all laughing or gasping or angrily tweeting about Ivanka's imaginary wife, a dozen other very real, very damaging things are happening in the shadows. Real people are being hurt. Real policies are being enacted that hurt working families. The real work of the country is being ignored." Her voice rose, gaining the familiar cadence of a courtroom summation. "This isn't a joke. It's a weapon. It's a smoke bomb, and the former president just threw it into the middle of a crowded room. He didn't deny it because a denial wouldn't have been as fun. He wanted to watch us all run around, coughing and confused, while he and his allies quietly pick our pockets." She looked around the chamber, her gaze settling on the few reporters in the press gallery. "So here is my message to Donald Trump and to everyone who amplifies this kind of toxic nonsense. We see what you're doing. We see the smoke, and we're not going to chase it. We're going to walk right through it. We're going to keep talking about the price of insulin, the state of our schools, the crumbling roads and bridges, and the very real threats to our democracy that don't involve who Ivanka Trump may or may not be married to." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Because the American people are smarter than you think. They know the difference between a real problem and a made-up reality show plot. And frankly, Mr. President, if this is the best distraction you can come up with, you're going to have to try a lot harder. This story isn't just false, it's boring, it's lazy, and it's an insult to the intelligence of every single person in this country." She tapped the podium once with her index finger. "I yield the floor." For a moment, there was silence in the chamber. Then, from the gallery, a single sharp clap, quickly stifled. On the floor, a Democratic senator from across the aisle gave her a subtle nod. The C-SPAN cameras kept rolling. Crockett stepped away from the podium, her heart hammering against her ribs. She walked back to her office, not looking back at the chamber. When she walked in, David was staring at his phone, a wide grin on his face.
"It's already clipped," he said, turning the screen to her. The video was on Twitter. The caption read, "Jasmine Crockett absolutely destroys the Ivanka wife nonsense." The view count was climbing by the thousands every second. She didn't smile. She just sat down in her leather chair and let out a long, slow breath. She had thrown a glass of cold water on the internet's hottest garbage fire. The flames might flicker for a while, but for the first time that day, the air felt a little clearer. The Martian had been sent back to space. It was time to get back to work.